I'm just doing a sound check right now with those participating remotely.
I'd like to call to order the Board of Directors meetings for the Santa Barbara County Association of Governments. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Director Williams,
Here.
Hartman. Here. Murillo.
Here.
Adam.
Here.
Lavanino.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Rubalcaba.
Here.
Mosby.
Here.
Patino.
Here.
Sierra.
Here.
Perotti.
Here.
Clark.
Here.
And Chair Hart.
Here. I believe Ms. Bianchi-Clement has some housekeeping reminders about how we're going to proceed through the agenda with remote participation.
Great, thank you, Chair Hart. For the record, my name is Lauren Bianchi-Clement, Government Affairs and Public Information Manager of SBCAG. We appreciate everyone's participation with remote access for some of our Board of Directors as well as members of the public, and we wanted to highlight some virtual participation housekeeping items. This meeting is being recorded, including directors and members of the public participating virtually, as regular in-person SBCAG meetings are recorded. For the directors, those of you who are participating remotely today, if you are not talking, please mute or turn off your microphone. When you are talking, please speak directly into your microphone. Please only watch the SBCAG meeting via Zoom and not through the CSBTV live stream being offered on Channel 20 and YouTube. Silence your phone and all other background devices. If you have a camera, turn off your camera if you need to take care of business outside of these meetings. To help navigate in-person and virtual participation on webinar and taking turns speaking, we will use both roll call and the raise my hand icon feature. If you have not been asked a direct question but would like to make a comment, please use that raise my hand icon feature that can be found located on, if you click on, we went through that with the directors, but for the members of the public, if you click on participants icon in your menu bar with Zoom, and you pop out a screen to see who is participating, including yourself. There's gray buttons on the bottom, and one of them will say, raise my hand. All action items will require a complete roll call. Chair Hart will call for a motion and a second, and then ask our clerk, Terry Contreras, to conduct roll call. When it is your turn to vote, please unmute yourself before voting. Let's be patient with one another as muting and unmuting may take a few extra seconds. For members of the public, you are in listening only mode. All attendees will remain in listening only mode unless unmuted by SBCAG staff to provide public comment. Members of the public will not be able to share their video or computer screen. When speaking, please speak directly into the microphone to help everyone hear you clearly in the board hearing room chambers. When public comment is called for on an agenda item, attendees may use the raise my hand icon button to express a desire to provide public comment for that item, and you'll be unmuted when it is your turn. Those calling on the phone can dial *9 to raise your hands. And this concludes the housekeeping portion of our meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bianchi-Clement, for helping folks with the rules of engagement. Now, please join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And if I don't have a ready, begin.
Thank you. The next item is public comment. Are there any public comment slips that have been provided in advance for this item?
There's no public comment in Santa Barbara.
Are there any public commenters in Santa Maria?
There are none here.
Thank you very much. I think we are fine there then. Item 4 is approval of the consent calendar. Are there any items that directors would like to pull off the consent calendar?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, there's something up in Santa Maria. I need to recuse myself from item 4B, and I would like to pull item 4M and ask a question about that.
Okay. And then Director Williams also needs to recuse himself from item 4K, I believe. And so let's start with 4B. Madam Clerk, would you read 4B?
Mr. Director, I'd like to pull,
Oops, excuse me, somebody else?
this is Rubalcaba.
Uh-huh, yes.
I'd like to pull 4B and E.
4B and 4E, okay. Any other directors
Yes.
with anyone on the phone? Okay, so we have 4B, 4E, 4K, and 4M. Madam Clerk, could you read 4B into the record?
Yes. 4B. 4B1, approve and authorize the chair to execute amendment number 2 to the agreement with SOMAS to complete detailed design permitting right-of-way and utility phases of the Highway 166 Black Road intersection project to increase cost by $100,000 for a total not to exceed $482,000, and to extend the term for 2 years for a total performance period of November 24th, 2017 through December 31st, 2022. 4B2, approve and authorize the chair to execute amendment number 3 with COM3 Consulting for project management assistance for Highway 166 Black Road and the Highway 166 Highway 1 projects to increase costs by $20,000 for a total amount not to exceed $145,000, and to extend the term for 2 years for a total performance period of November 30th, 2015 through June 30th, 2020.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And is there any discussion on this item or any public comment?
There's no public comment on item 4B.
Yes, I have a,
Is that
yes, I
direct-
just have a question.
Yes, Director
Yes, Director
Rubalcaba.
Rubalcaba. I was just wanting clarification on there that the project is the lights, the stoplights, because I don't see anything in here. Doesn't say what exactly the project is.
Thank you for that question. I think Executive Director Kern is going to answer.
Madam Chair, members of the board, the 166 and Black Road intersection project is the signalization of that location, if that clarifies the action. And Fred is available to answer any specific questions on this item.
Director Rubalcaba, do you have any additional questions?
I just thought maybe there could have been some clarification in the agenda regarding the exact project.
Okay, duly noted. Let's take a motion to approve this item separately. So would somebody please make a motion on this item?
I'll move that forward, sir.
Motion's been made
Second.
and seconded. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Director Williams?
Aye.
Hartman?
Aye.
And recused. Levanino?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye.
Rubalcaba?
Aye.
Mosby?
Aye.
Patino?
Aye.
Perotti?
Aye.
Clark?
Director Clark, you're muted. Aye.
Okay. Mario?
Is that me? Aye.
Sierra?
Aye.
And Chair Hart.
Aye.
Motion passes 12-0.
Thank you very much. The next item requested to be discussed separately is item 4E.
Item 4E, performance-based salary adjustment for the executive director. 4B1, approve a 3% performance-based salary increase as required under Section 5 of the Agreement of Employment between Santa Barbara County Association of Governments and Margie C. Kern, Executive Director, for exceptional performance. And 4E2, receive a summary report for the final action regarding the salary of the Executive Director in accordance with Government Code Section 54953C3.
Thank you. And which director asked that this be pulled?
I believe it was Director Rubalcaba.
Director Rubalcaba, did you have a particular question?
Director Rubalcaba, we can't hear you.
We seem to have lost the audio.
I'm sorry, here I am.
Okay,
There you go.
thank you.
Thank
Can you
you.
hear me now?
Yes, yes. Thank you very much.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I'm just concerned about some performance increases. I just wanted to state that, not that anybody is not merited that. It's just due to the fact that we have this situation with what's happened with COVID, and I just wanted to state that, and that's about it.
Okay. So does this
And
need
I-
us?
and I will,
Yes,
Mr. Chair.
Supervisor Adam?
I will make the same objection I made at the Board of Supervisors a little while ago. You know, the optics is just terrible when you have a big portion of our society that's suffering greatly, and, you know, we could show a little solidarity with all of our citizens and maybe not take a pay increase, even though it may be appropriate.
Thank you, Supervisor Adam. Ms. Van Molen?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to make a quick announcement that's required by the Brown Act for this type of action. Under Government Code Section 54953, the Brown Act requires that prior to taking final action, the legislative body shall orally report the summary of the recommendation on a final action of salary for a local agency executive. Here, item 4E provides a 3% performance-based salary increase for the executive director. Under the agreement of employment between SBCAG and the executive director, SBCAG agreed to increase 3% base salary for overall outstanding performance. And I did notice the agenda says exceptional performance, but the contract says outstanding.
Thank you very much. Is there any other discussion on this item? Is there a motion?
Move staff's recommendation.
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
And seconded. Is there any public comment on this item?
We have no public comment on
Okay, thank you.
this item.
No public comment in Santa Maria? I don't see anyone. Okay. Madam
No
Clerk,
public comment.
thank you very much. Madam Clerk, would you please read the roll?
Director Williams,
Aye.
Hartman,
Aye.
Adam,
No.
Lavanino,
Aye.
Johnson,
No.
Rubalcaba,
No.
Mosby,
Aye.
Patino,
Aye.
It is what it is.
Perotti,
Aye.
Clark, Murillo,
Aye.
Sierra,
Aye.
and Chair Hart.
Aye.
Motion passes 10-3.
Okay, thank you. The next item is item 4K. Would the clerk please read that item into the roll?
Yes, and Director Williams needs to recuse himself. Thanks. Item 4K, Highway 101, Carpinteria, Segment 4A, Community Outreach and Project Support Services. 4K1, approve and authorize the chair to execute Amendment Number 4 to the agreement with Ayers and Associates to provide public information and community outreach for Segment 4A of the Highway 101, Carpinteria to Santa Barbara project for the next year with an increased cost of $135,000 for a total not to exceed $865,000 without a change in the period of performance ending June 30th, 2023. 4K2, approve and authorize the chair to execute Amendment Number 3 to the agreement with WSP Incorporated to provide web programming, web design, visualizations, graphic, video, and other support services for Segment 4A of the Highway 101 Carpinteria to Santa Barbara project for the next year with an increased amount of $25,000 for a total amount not to exceed $575,000 without a change in the period of performance ending June 30th, 2023.
And is there any public comment on this item?
There's no public comment on item 4K.
Is there any
None
public
in Santa
comment?
Maria.
Thank you, Director Adam.
Move approval.
Thank you. The motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Supervisor or Director Hartman, and seconded by Director Murillo. Any discussion on this item? Would the clerk please call the roll?
Director Hartman,
Aye.
Adam,
Aye.
Lavanino,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Rubalcaba,
Aye.
Mosby,
Aye.
Patino,
Aye.
Perotti,
Aye.
Clark?
Director Clark, you're unmuted.
No, I'm not.
Aye.
Can you hear me? Aye.
Yes, we can. Confirming. Thanks.
Director Murillo?
Aye.
Director Sierra?
Aye.
And Chair Hart.
Aye.
Motion passes 12-0.
Thank you very much. And the last item for individual discussion is item 4M. Would the clerk please read that item into the record?
4M, Transportation Development Act, Local Transportation Fund Allocations. Adopt Resolution 2015 allocating $19,620,000 in local transportation funds to eligible claimants for fiscal year 2020 through 2021. Excuse me.
Thank you. And which director asked that this be pulled?
Yeah, that was Adam.
Thank you, Director Adam.
My question is when are we going to get the answer to the Santa Maria area transit figure?
Executive Director Kern.
Mr. Chairperson, members of the board, we've been in communications with the City of Santa Maria financial staff, and we hope to get that audit within the next week or so. So once that is done, then we can allocate those funds to Santa Maria.
And we're going to bring that back so we all know what the answer is?
Yes, we'll bring that back.
Okay, good deal. Thank you.
Is there any public comment on this item in Santa Barbara or in Santa Maria?
None in Santa Maria.
Not in
No,
Santa Barbara
no
either?
public,
Okay,
no.
great. And then could I please get a motion for item 4M?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made by Director Hartman and seconded by Director Murillo. Any discussion? Would the clerk please call the roll?
Director Williams?
Aye.
Hartman?
Aye.
Adam?
Aye.
Lavanino?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye.
Rubalcaba?
Aye.
Mosby?
Aye.
Patino?
Aye.
Perotti?
Aye.
Clark?
Aye.
Sierra?
Aye.
And Chair Hart.
Aye.
Motion passes 13-0.
And then the last piece is a motion on the balance of the consent calendar. Would someone please make a motion?
Move adoption.
Motion's been made by Director Hartman. And
A second from
seconded
Murillo.
By Director Murillo. Is there any public comment on any of the other items remaining on the consent calendar?
We have no public comment in Santa Barbara.
And in Santa Maria, are there any public commenters?
Sorry, I'm slacking off. No.
Thank you very much. Then we will have a roll call vote.
Director Williams?
Aye.
Hartman?
Aye.
Adam?
Aye.
Lavanino?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye.
Rubalcaba?
Aye.
Mosby?
Aye.
Patino?
Aye.
Perotti?
Aye.
Clark?
Aye.
Murillo?
Aye.
Sierra?
Aye.
And Chair Hart.
Aye.
Motion passes 13-0.
Thank you for your patience on that process. Next, we go to item number 5. Ms. Contreras, would you please read item 5 into the record?
Certainly, Chair Hart. Item 5, Senate Bill 1, Cycle 2 application submittal for Santa Barbara US 11 Multimodal Corridor. 5A, receive a presentation on the SBCAG strategy to submit SB1 Cycle 2 funding applications to the California Transportation Commission to fully fund the Santa Barbara US 101 Multimodal Corridor project. 5B, authorize submittal of the SB1 Cycle 2 funding applications to the California Transportation Commission.
Mr. Krotchek, are you presenting this item?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, directors. Staff today is excited to present our strategy to your board on fully funding the Santa Barbara US 101 Multimodal Corridor. We have the great opportunity this year through Senate Bill 1 to accomplish this goal. Next slide, please. This is a memory from 2018 when we were awarded Cycle 1 funding from the California Transportation Commission. This was for the first 3 segments of US 101 Phase 4 along with the parallel projects. So we're looking forward to recreating a new memory similar to this. Next slide, please. Before we go into the strategy, we did want to recognize and thank our team. This includes SBCAG staff, along with our partnership with Caltrans and District 5. We also wanted to thank TTAC and our local agency partners. They've been critical in terms of providing input on our strategy since the beginning, so we're thankful for that. And then we wanted to also recognize Point C Consulting, as well as Kimley Horn, our grant writing firm. Next slide, please. For Cycle 2, the Senate Bill 1 programs that the CDC administers, there's going to be approximately $2.1 billion available statewide for competitive programs. The focus is on funding transformative projects. There are 3 programs that we will be applying for, similar to Cycle 1. The first program is the Local Partnership Program, and this is a program that rewards self-help counties. Thanks to the support of our voters in 2008 with the renewal of Measure A, we are eligible to compete for this program. We also receive a formula share through the program that will be available to our region as long as we're a self-help county. So that's one thing we wanted to highlight. The next program is the Solutions for Congested Corridors program. This is a program that aims to fund transformative projects such as HOV lanes and other alternative transportation improvements. There's going to be approximately $500 million available for this cycle. If you are a co-partner with Caltrans, you are a priority project, and so that's something that we are excited about with our partnership with Caltrans. And then finally, the third program is the Trade Corridors Enhancement Program, or what we call the FREIGHT program. This actually has the most significant amount of money in Cycle 2. It's about $1.4 billion, and the reason for that is there's $900 million in the state SB1 funding, and the CTC is also looking forward to using about $400 million in federal freight formula funding that would be available as part of a reauthorization by the federal government. The nice thing about this program is that they provide regional targets, and so through our advocacy through the Central Coast Coalition, we actually have a Central Coast regional target, and so our coalition gets to nominate projects for this funding. In Cycle 1, the coalition graciously allowed SBCAG to submit our one HOV project for the program, and so for this cycle, we're able to negotiate with the Central Coast Coalition to split the funding 3 ways because there are 2 other regions that have projects that are ready to go. So we are able to receive a portion of the funding. Next slide, please. In terms of our strategy, this is something that we have shared with TTAC and received their support on. Back in September of 2019, as part of the Measure A Strategic Plan financial memo, your board authorized the use of $42 million in regional surface transportation program funding. This was set aside for the US 101 HOV reserve. And so SBCAG staff is recommending programming that funding towards the corridor. There are a couple benefits here. The first benefit was through the strategic plan and the financing needs. By using the $42 million, it reduces the impact of bond financing when we have to secure financing in the next couple of years for Measure A to help with cash flow. And then in terms of our strategy with the CTC, by using the funding on some of our local projects and then just submitting the HOV lane as long as one other project, the Cabrillo project, we're simplifying the request to the CTC and reducing the amount of administration involved with the SB1 programs for our region. And as I mentioned, we've received support from TTAC on this strategy. This next slide shows the planned use for the $42 million. We are using some of the funding to help with costs in segments A, B, and C, but then the balance is being used in Cycle 2. And so the projects are shown are the Cabrillo Undercrossing, the Los Patos Cabrillo intersection, Olive Mill Roundabout, San Ysidro Roundabout, Santa Claus Lane Bikeway, Rincon Bikeway, and Milpas southbound off-ramp for US 101. So that total is $42 million per the board authorized use. Next slide, please. In terms of our request, it is substantial. It's $230 million. In contrast, in cycle one, we requested $184 million, but we did receive the full award. It is a large request, but we feel as though we're going to be very competitive because we are looking to complete the corridor. And we actually are eligible for all three funding programs through our advocacy through the guidelines development with the CTC. So for segments 4D and E for the US 101, the local partnership formula funding that I mentioned previously, as long as the freight Central Coast regional funding, SPCAG is proposing to program the funding to 4D. And then for 4E and Cabrillo, along with 4D, we are going to be submitting applications for all three programs. And that way we're providing the commission with the flexibility to fully fund our award in cycle two. And then, as I mentioned previously, we have the great partnership with Caltrans, and so we have been determined to be a co-applicant with Caltrans for the Solutions for Congested Corridors program. So it'll be a priority application for that program. Next slide, please. With that, we did want to inform the board of various scenarios that could occur with our request. The first scenario is that we feel as though due to our competitiveness, we can be fully funded in cycle two. So that'd be $230 million for the full award. This would mean that all projects are funded for construction and are able to be delivered by, or at least start construction by 22-23. Scenario B is the first partially funded scenario. This is where we maybe don't get the full award, but are about $190 to $220 million approved. So then we would need to work with TTAC and the board on identifying any regional funding that we could use to fully fund the corridor to remain on schedule with construction. And then scenario C is one where we may only get awarded for funding for segment 4E and the Cabrillo project. And then that would leave a gap of about $100 million or close to $100 million for segment 4D. Due to the size of that need, we would look to apply for cycle 3 of SP1 programs to fully fund the corridor. The first year of cycle 3 is fiscal year 23-24, so it's just a year behind cycle 2. Next slide, please. As I mentioned, staff is confident in terms of our ask. We've been working on this corridor for over 25 years in partnership with Caltrans. The CTC has made substantial investments in our corridor through phases 1, 2, and 3, going back to Proposition 1B. So they're definitely aware of the investment made and then realizing the full benefits of completing the corridor. And so we are going to be ready for Cycle 2 programming. We have a partnership with Caltrans, and we're leveraging a substantial amount of state and local funding. Next slide, please. In terms of next steps, today we are looking for your board to authorize submittal of the applications to the CTC. Our applications are going to be due between June and August, and then CTC staff will be evaluating the applications. We were scheduled to have the CTC in March for a regular meeting, but due to the impact of COVID-19, they were not able to hold that meeting in Santa Barbara, but we have a commitment from them that they will come to Santa Barbara in October, assuming we're able to still have the meeting, and then we will make sure that we are having events that reflect social distancing and all the requirements of COVID-19. The important part here is that if we are able to have the commission here in October, that would be about 2 or 3 weeks before staff releases their staff recommendations. So they would be able to see the progress that we're making, especially with the completion of phase 3 and then the construction of phase 4A. And then staff recommendations come out November 12th, and the commission is scheduled to adopt the Cycle 2 awards on December 2nd. Next slide, please. We've presented our strategy to TTAC, the North County Subregional, and the South Coast Subregional committees in June, and received unanimous support from all those committees for our strategy. And then last slide, please. We are hoping to have another check presentation in December, assuming all goes well, and so we look forward to having you all there. With that, that concludes staff's presentation. I can take any questions at this time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gottschalk. That's a very comprehensive report. Are there questions for staff? Doesn't sound like it. Is there any public comment on this item?
There's no public comment.
Is there any public
None in
comment in
Santa
Santa
Maria.
Maria? Thank you, Director Adam. I did have one question that's kind of tangentially related. Do we have a current estimated completion date for Phase 3?
Phase 3 is scheduled to be completed by June.
June? Okay,
Yes.
so. Sure, if Fred's there.
Fred Luna. He's still muted.
That's okay. Soon, anytime, very, okay, good. That's all I need to know. Thank you. Could we please have a motion on this item? It's to receive the presentation and authorize submittal of the Cycle 2 funding applications to the CTC.
So moved.
Holly Sierra, I'll make a motion.
Okay.
Second.
Director Sierra made the motion and Director Hartman seconded it. Any discussion? Please, a roll call, Madam Clerk.
Director Williams?
Aye.
Hartman?
Aye.
Adam?
Aye.
Lavanino?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye.
Rubalcaba?
Aye.
Mosby?
Aye.
Patino?
Aye.
Perotti?
Aye.
Clark?
Aye.
Murillo?
Aye.
Sierra?
Aye.
And Chair Hart.
Aye.
Motion passes 13-0.
Thank you very much. The next item is number 6. Madam Clerk, could you please
Yes.
read that item into the record?
Item 6, 2018 Transit and Intercity Rail Capital Program Coastal Express Expansion Grant. A proven concept, the use of SBCAG Transit and Intercity Rail Capital Program grant funds to purchase real property to support the Coastal Express Pacific Surfliner Peak Hours Service Expansion and Integration Project Grant Award, and provide direction to staff as appropriate.
Executive Director Kern?
Mr. Chairperson, members of the board, this item is to identify how we're going to use our TIRCIP grant that we received a couple years ago. We originally had a plan, but now we're kind of switching it. I just want to give some preface to this. Way back when I was executive director of the Merced County Joint Powers Authority for Transit, we went through this process as well. Prior to acquiring property, we were going out to bid for our contractor, and we would only get one bid. It was a local bidder who was in the area and had a facility. We decided to obtain our own facility, and we were able to receive 4 or 5 bids each time we went out after that. So having a facility in place allows for more contractors to bid on it because they don't have to acquire their own property to maintain the buses and store the buses or charge the buses, whatever they need to do. So this is the strategy here, is to make Clean Air Express a more independent agency where we can acquire competitive bids in our contracting out of services. Scott is going to give you an overview of the grant and what we're proposing here, and ask for direction moving forward. So I'll hand it over to Scott. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kern. Mr. Spalding?
Thank you, Margie. I think I'd like to just start by going back to the summer of 2017, and that's when SBCAG started thinking about how to seek funding to support the Coastal Express bus service, which operates between Ventura County and Santa Barbara County, primarily during commute hours during weekdays. The TIRCP program, Transit and Intercity Rail Capital Program, it's a mouthful, is certainly familiar to SBCAG. We submitted an application actually in the second round prior to 2017-2018. That was unsuccessful. but the 2017-18 round was expected to have a lot more funding availability. We had a little bit more experience in terms of application under our belt, and we decided to sort of cast a wider regional net and approached VCTC and said, hey, what if we sort of thought big and applied for some zero-emission coaches, which even today, several years later, is still an emerging market. But then there were some products that were going to be coming onto market. And at the same time, in the summer of 2017, we were concluding the final adjustments and development program for our peak hour Pacific Surfliner service. And so together with VCTC, we developed a plan to apply for, to purchase 5 zero-emission coaches to essentially augment and support the planned Pacific Surfliner peak hour service. So it would make it easier for customers to sort of move, or commuters to move in between the bus service and the intended train service. So VCTC partnered with SBCAG. SBCAG's the lead agency. We approached MTD since they, at that time, they were had preliminary plans to rehabilitate and restart reusing their surplus facility at Overpass Road. And we said, hey, let's think big. Let's see what we can do here. And we submitted a grant that included, the bulk of the grant is to purchase electric vehicles, but we carved out $1.5 million for MTD to be able to improve their local facility for to improve the operational efficiency of their local transit service. They're expanding service in Goleta and UCSB over time, and having a Goleta-based facility would certainly help them. They're very heavily impacted at their downtown facility currently. And also included $3 million in the grant to support the intended, if successful, regional service to support the expanded Coastal Express service that would be fully integrated with the Pacific Surfliner service. So the outlines or the components of the grant are in the staff report there that you have before you. Since the application was submitted and ultimately granted, the Cycle 3 TIRSIP program had about $10 billion worth of applications, with about $2.5 billion worth of awarded grants. So we were very happy to be successful and to actually get this funding. But since the grant was awarded a little over 2 years ago, MTD has used some of the funding that the grant provided to do a facility master plan, and we've had conversations with them throughout this last 2 years. And although we were originally intending to be able to partner with MTD and have them operate the Clean Air Express for us using their new facility, as well as support the Coastal Express, the zero-emission Coastal Express buses, after conducting their facility assessment, meeting with us and assessing their needs over the long term, because we do need, under the grant conditions, permanent access to the facility, they were not able to make that level of commitment both for a permanent support of a regional transit facility, as given their future needs, and as well as operate the Clean Air Express service for us. We learned that in 2019, towards the end of the year. And at that point, we pivoted a little bit and said, okay, how can we use these resources, which were always intended, even from the beginnings of the grant application development, to be able to serve a dual purpose. The Clean Air Express, as Margie mentioned, has never had a facility in the South Coast, never had a facility, period, but never certainly had a facility in the South Coast that would be controlled by the operator, SBCAG, which is where it needs to be. The buses from both north and south, particularly north, come into the commute shed in Santa Barbara and Goleta all the way from Camarillo to Santa Maria. The commute shed for Santa Barbara Goleta is very large, and typically for the Clean Air Express, the buses sit here all day, so that's where the buses are. For the Coastal Express, there's roughly the same level of commute hour service. Some of those buses return in the morning in revenue service. Some of them actually what's called deadhead back or drive out of service all the way back to Camarillo. And that's a very expensive, very very greenhouse gas generating move. For the Clean Air Express, we have the buses here all day long, but we have no ability to be able to maintain them. We've had currently, with our contractor, we're about 3.5 years into our current contract. The buses are actually maintained in Grover Beach, which is 93 miles from the building that we're in here today, where many of our customers have. So if there's a problem with the bus, if it needs maintenance, it has to be driven all the way up there, which is a 3-hour or close to a 3.5-hour round trip, and outside of the expense of actually and inconvenience and operational inefficiency of actually having to do that. So having a facility in the South Coast is critical to the operating efficiency of the Clean Air Express. We've always known that. When SBCAG took over the service in 2001, Santa Barbara Airbus was operating the service. They had a facility here in Goleta, and it was highly efficient because the buses were here all day. So that's what we've always been looking for. And when we learned that we weren't able to do that with MTD at their rehab facility in Overpass, we started considering other options about how we would be able to leverage this money to serve both of those purposes. We had conversations with the county to try to identify some land that they may or may not have available. That did not come to fruition. We had long conversations with Santa Barbara Airport. They own a considerable amount of property in Goleta where the best location would be. They even identified a parcel for us. But we could not come to terms with the airport to be able to meet both the grant application needs and the operational needs of the service. Following that, which happened sort of around the turn of the year, we started turning to the commercial market. And we've had discussions with commercial brokers trying to take a look at the market and say, is there anything that we could use the funding that we have to be able to establish a secure and permanent facility to meet the operational needs of the service. We haven't identified any specific parcels yet, but that's kind of where we are today, and that's why we're bringing this item to you in terms of asking for conceptual approval to use the $3.8 million in grant funds that we have to create a regional transit support facility that would not just support the Coastal Express service, the expanded Coastal Express service that we receive funding for, which is very exciting. Zero emission buses. I've actually demoed some, and it's a very exciting thing to be able to do. But you do need the charging infrastructure to be able to do that, as well as the Clean Air Express service, which has been without a home for the 20 years that SBCAG has operated it, and the 10 years before when APCD did. So I think with that, I think I've covered most of the items. Be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Spalding. Are there questions from staff?
Chair Hart, Director Prodi has a question.
Thank you. Director Prodi?
Thank you, Chair. I have a couple questions. I'm not saying I'm opposed to this idea, but for me, I'm feeling like I need more information. You know, I know that MTD has completed their some of their obligations as far as the facilities master plan has been completed, and you know, working as quickly as possible with recommissioning Terminal 2. So, you know, I'm proud to report that. I guess the information I'm needing on the purchase of the property, so you're basically saying hasn't been a parcel identified yet. I'm hearing there might be a parcel in Goleta. So I want to know more about that. And I guess what I'm looking for too is the pros and the cons of doing this, something that really lists out the benefit of doing it this way versus maybe going back to MTD with, I know that they're able to accommodate the Coastal Express between Santa Barbara and Terminal 2, the layover for the Coastal Express and possibly the Clean Air Express. So I'm just hoping that you can answer some of those questions, and also, you know, working collaboratively with MTD. I'd like to know, is that conversation still happening? What's going on with the conversation with MTD and this new idea? this just leaves me wanting more. That's all I'm saying. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Prodi. Mr. Spalding?
I can answer a couple of those questions, and I know there have been discussions between the managing director of MTD and SBCAG's executive director, so I'll let Margie speak to that issue. I do know that we have had conversations with MTD about trying to position MTD to be able to operate the Clean Air Express for us since 2009. And the reason for that is because MTD provides 80% of the transit trips in Santa Barbara County. They're a very high quality, very capable operator that is based in the South Coast, and they would be able to be very well positioned since they have one, and in the near term future, 2 facilities to be able to support the Clean Air Express service for SBCAG at a very cost-effective rate. That was very clearly identified in the short-range transit plan that was presented to the SBCAG board last year, and we've had conversations with them, with MTD about having MTD play that role for SBCAG. There's been, and MTD has said continuously, we want to help, we want to be able to do that, but only if they're going to be in a position to be able to do it effectively and reliably. And the one issue that they have pointed out to us over time is that they, at least at this point, do not have a sufficient number of drivers that live in North County for them to be able to operate the service reliably to the extent that they would want to, which is fully understandable. That could change in the future, and that would be great, and that may put MTD in a position to be able to operate the Clean Air Express service for us. That would be fantastic because, again, as identified in the short-range transit plan, that would lead to considerable savings for the taxpayer if they were able to do that over our current cost structure. And I can talk to a little bit about the benefits of having a South Coast regional transit facility to support both the expanded Coastal Express service and the Clean Air Express service. I had a conversation with our current contractor last week, and I asked him to sort of give us a guesstimate of what that would mean, speaking to Director Kern's points about her experience in Merced County of having a facility to be able to provide to an operator, and he ballparked it at in the $90,000 to $100,000 per year cost savings that would be avoided by having to maintain vehicles at their current facility, which is in Grover Beach. Again, that's quite a drive, or anywhere else in North County. The Clean Air Express vehicles are actually in the South Coast all day on weekdays, so they're available for maintenance and attention and servicing. If we were to have a facility, and we've done this in the past when Santa Maria operated it for us, or Lompoc, they're in one of those cities, not both. We certainly wouldn't want to duplicate facilities and have one facility in Lompoc and one in Santa Maria. That would be cost prohibitive. But the vehicles are here all day. If they have to be maintained in North County, you're facing a need to hire a mechanic to work a graveyard shift or weekends. That makes it that much more difficult in that particular labor market to make a recruitment. So there's a whole variety of reasons and actually problems. The solution to this problem is to have a regional transit facility that's dedicated to the Clean Air Express. And I think I'll kick it over to Director Kern if she wants to share anything about the conversations that she's had with Jerry Estrada just about this issue.
Yeah, we have had conversations with the general manager of MTD, Jerry Estrada, and he is interested in storing the buses for charging capabilities, and so as we transition, there might be an opportunity for that to occur, because there is some benefit in getting more buses in one location for charging capabilities. But I know that Jerry's on the phone, and he has, or on the Zoom call, and has a request for public comment, so he can add to that.
That sounds like a good segue to go to Mr. Estrada.
Jerry, you have been unmuted, so you should be able to speak.
Thank you. This is Jerry Estrada, General Manager, MTD. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Jerry, could
first of
you
all-
speak more clearly into the microphone? Sorry, we have a big room here.
Sure. Is that a little bit better?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Again, thank you for the opportunity to speak. First of all, we really appreciate the work we've been able to do with SBCAG staff, Director Kern, on the TIRSIP project. I wanted to clarify a few things. The MTD made essentially 3 commitments as a partner on the TIRSIP project. And, one of them was to do a facilities master plan. And I wanted to clarify on that item that the parameters we gave our consultant was to only look at the real estate owned by MTD currently. So what they came back with essentially was looking 20 years out. And with the build out of Terminal 2, which will be a major capital investment on the South Coast, it can be done as far as meeting MTD's needs. We also came away with our belief that we could handle certainly the expanded Coastal Express daytime charging and potentially store Clean Air Express buses during the day while our fleet is in operation. Beyond that, we didn't have a lot of discussions, but we understand that there's a need for Clean Air Express to potentially have a facility. We would just say on that particular item, we did a facilities master plan to assess the cost, where the right location is, that sort of thing, and we would ask that something similar be done on this. But we're ready to help in any way we can as far as helping with the Clean Air Express. As far as a long-term commitment, we have issues right now with the pandemic that we're managing and going to have to get through like everyone else. I will say this, that one of our biggest challenges for the coastal, helping with the Clean Air Express, as Mr. Spalding pointed out, was recruitment of bus drivers in North County. But the issue we've had at MTD over the years is the recruitment of diesel mechanics on the South Coast. So that would, by moving your operations in the South Coast, something to consider as well. That's all. Not questioning the need for the Clean Air Express to have some type of base of operations, just asking that, we all continue to work together and try to benefit from each other's experience and leverage our assets where we can. So concludes my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Estrada. Are there other questions from directors for staff or Mr. Estrada? Are there any public commenters on the Zoom line? Executive Director Kern, you had something you wanted to add?
I just want to clarify that this is a conceptual direction. Any physical action of moving forward with the property would have to come back to the board, and more than likely would be a closed session negotiation type item. So this is just to explore the options, and we would come back to the board with those options.
Thank you for that clarification. Is there any public comments in Santa Maria?
I have a question from Santa Maria, Director Mosby.
Okay, Director Mosby, sure, please go ahead.
So the primary goal is to enhance single peak hour Pacific Surfliner round trips. So how many dollars per commuter are we looking at here? You had $9.6 million. What is the breakdown here?
Taking a step back and talking about the grant application and the award was to operate 4 round trips that would support the peak hour Pacific Surfliner trip. Coaches can seat anywhere from 50 to 59 individuals. So you could talk about 200 available seats that this service would be able to support. In terms of specific riders, it would matter what the actual ridership levels would be.
So what is the actual ridership level right now that you'd be supporting?
For the Coastal Express service?
Yeah, as per this $9.6 million grant, yes.
I believe in the application that I'd have to go back to do it, but I believe we assumed ridership levels at the averaging between 25 and 30 per trip in that coach in the application that we submitted.
So $9.6 million for 100 people to 120 people?
Yes.
Okay. Another question. Currently, Lompoc's building a transit facility. Was there discussion about using Lompoc's transit facility? I think they got $10 or $12 million. They've already bought the land. They've got the plans 90% done, initiating construction soon. Weren't they originally going to do some of the Clean Air Express servicing there in Lompoc and centralize?
We have had discussions with Lompoc over the years in their development of that facility. We actually have an agreement with them to be able to store the buses there if that turns out to be cost effective, and charge them if ultimately the Clean Air Express is going to have to electrify their fleet just like every other transit service in the state. And so as part of the design of that, they are going to be including charging infrastructure for coaches for the Clean Air Express service. And so we are, there is the potential to partner with the city for that facility, but the core problem is that having a maintenance facility in North County doesn't help the 13 buses that are here in the South Coast all day long when you want to have a mechanic work a daytime shift, or two mechanics work a daytime shift. So, you know, this is truly a once in a generation opportunity to be able to have some funding that's available to support the Clean Air Express service, to develop a facility that would be controlled by SBCAG, which is the operator of the service, and that we, as Director Kern mentioned, we would be able to make the facility available to contractors in the same way that we do our vehicles, since we own them as well.
Well, currently now, Clean Air Express is parking at that land that Lompoc bought for a transit facility, right?
We have a conditional use permit that runs out on July 31st for that.
Well, I mean, you are on the land that was purchased for transit, and I know that the $13 million facility Lompoc is building, they anticipated working on these vehicles. There's a level of logic that you work on a vehicle when it's out of service, not when it's in middle of service. And you take a vehicle down there and you're doing something, if you should have an issue, you're going to have to send another bus down there. When I'm working on tractors or other equipment, I do a lot of night servicing. I don't do it in the middle of the day. I understand there is some logic there, but if you happen to have an issue while you're doing it, or you can't get a part and the bus is down there, you got to bring another bus down there because you're committed to transporting people. I mean, while there is some logic to servicing in the middle of your cycle, I think it is more logical to be servicing at night, and that's what they have been doing, is in the night when it's out of service. And that way they can anticipate if they have an issue when you're servicing. But it seems like we have a level of redundancy. You have 100 to 120 riders, $9.6 million. Maybe some things that seem to be a once-in-a-lifetime chance, maybe, that's just asking too much.
Are there other questions for staff? And is there any public comment in Santa Maria?
Chair Hart, Holly Sierra, quick question. This is just a conception, correct? This is not, we're not allocating the money, we're just letting staff investigate this a little bit more, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, if there is not any more discussion, could we have a motion? Excuse me, Director Williams.
Well, I definitely think we need a better solution than what we have now. And we do have some grant funds for it, though I still, would like to explore to understand the options that were rejected. I'm disappointed that the county though I've never been rolled up in it and would be happy to be rolled up in it, understand why the county doesn't have a facility, or MTD, why there isn't some economies of scale doing this together with MTD. I just want to know that a little bit more, but I'm happy to support the motion that we explore the options.
And is that a motion, actually?
Mr. Chair.
Director Adam.
Yeah, I think it needs to be repeated here, maybe just stated a little more succinctly. Seems like Lompoc has relied on the representations that they were going to have a certain level of participation in their facility as a basis to go and spend $13 million on a transit center, and to be trying to go around that at this point, that'll just blow up the ability of that service center to make any kind of logical sense. So I think we really need to pull back away from this and make sure that Lompoc gets taken care of, that their investment here doesn't just turn out to be eliminated, the value of the investment doesn't turn out to be eliminated by this action.
Are there any other comments from board members?
Yeah, Director Lavanino.
Yes.
So in part of this concept, as part of the motion, it would be helpful, I think, if we had staff, and I don't know how much this has already been done, but sit down with either Director Mosby or Lompoc city manager and get some input. So when it does come back, we get kind of a concept of not only what this does, but then how Lompoc would be impacted along the way.
Thank you, Director Lavanino. Would anybody like to make a motion? Director Williams, did you make a motion?
Sure, and I'm happy to, include that I do want to understand the dynamics with the Lompoc facility better. I don't really know those dynamics, but I'm happy to make the motion that we direct staff, or we approve staff to examine all options and make a report on the options that were both rejected and accepted to the board.
Thank you. Motion's been made. Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Director Hartman seconded the motion. Any discussion to the motion? Would the clerk please call the roll?
Director Williams?
Aye.
Hartman?
Aye.
Adam?
Aye.
Lavanino?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye.
Rubalcaba?
Aye.
Mosby?
Aye.
Patino?
Aye.
Perotti?
Aye.
Clark?
Aye.
Okay. Murillo?
Aye.
Sierra?
Aye.
And Chair Hart.
Aye.
Motion passes 13-0.
Thank you, Mr. Spalding. Next item is number 7. Madam Clerk, would you please read that item into the record?
Item 7, San Ynez Valley Traffic Circulation and Safety Study. 7A, receive a presentation on the San Ynez Valley Traffic Circulation and Safety Study. 7B, receive and file the final San Ynez Valley Traffic Circulation and Safety Study.
Mr. Carvalho, are you making this presentation? Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Hart. Good morning, Directors. Chair Carvalho.
Is your microphone on? I'm not sure. There you go. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Chair Hart. Good morning, Directors. Jared Carvalho here, Transportation Planner in the Planning Division at SBCAG. This morning I have a brief presentation on the San Ynez Valley Traffic Circulation and Safety Study. Today's presentation concludes this project, and we're asking that you formally receive and file the final report. Next slide, please. I got a little background story. This project is a result of concerns raised by SBCAG board member Director Hartman, and she discussed some issues in the San Ynez Valley with Eileen Lowe of Caltrans. Eileen recommended we seek Caltrans grant funding to conduct a study, and SBCAG partnered with the San Ynez Band of Chumash Indians to apply for state grant funds, successfully receiving $300,000 from Caltrans. SBCAG and the tribe also contributed matching funds of $25,000 each. The tribe's participation in this project was extremely beneficial. In addition to the cash match, the tribe donated roughly the same amount through in-kind contributions for the bus tour and public meetings. Following a competitive bid process, consulting firm Iteris was hired for this study. An advisory committee was assembled comprised of staff from Buellton, Solvang, the county, Caltrans, the CHP, and the tribe. The advisory committee reviewed work and provided project direction. Next slide, please. This project was driven by community input. During the 18-month process, there were 3 main opportunities for public participation: a bus tour, a live community workshop, and finally a virtual community presentation. The bus tour invited elected officials and members of the public to visit areas of concern in the valley and provided an opportunity for sharing those concerns and providing ideas. In the fall of 2019, we conducted a public workshop at Hotel Cork in Solvang, and roughly 100 people attended. We shared what we had learned and asked the public for any safety or circulation issues that were missing. This project's final public workshop was scheduled for late March but had to be canceled due to COVID-19. In its place, we conducted a virtual community presentation in May to share the results of this project. There were 110 live participants of that presentation and over 450 total views of the presentation. Mike Becker, Director of Planning, is also tentatively scheduled to present this project to the City of Buellton at their City Council meeting in July. Next slide, please. This study area includes the triangle shape formed by the US 101, Highway 154, and Highway 246. The study area was divided into 4 focus areas, and analysis was conducted on each area individually. Next slide, please. This slide is an example of some of the potential improvement strategies assessed in the study. In total, there were 19 of them. And if you're interested, I would encourage you to review the tables in the report. The study is a holistic assessment of circulation and safety in the valley. These results will guide future planning work conducted by SBCAG, Caltrans, and other jurisdictions moving forward. Next slide. And that concludes my presentation. We wanted to keep it brief today since a more expansive presentation occurred at the North County Subregional meeting. Both the North County Subregional Committee and TTAC voted the board receive and file the study. I would be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Carvalho. Are there questions of staff? Director Hartman?
Well, I just wanted to say a lot of thank yous. And first of all, this really is the cornerstone, but it links in the bike master plan, and then it will be a foundation for the Highway 154 Safety Subcommittee of this SBCAG. So, and the 100 and some people on the bus and the 400 people who participated one way or another with the virtual, I think shows that this was a model of working with the public and starting out not with a lot of preconceived ideas, but really listening. And so the consultants and the staff just did superior work. And I want to give a special call out to Eileen Lowe, because we tend to look at issues at one intersection at a time, and here we looked at it regionally as a whole triangle area, and so what happens in one area affects other areas. And so looking at this regional perspective, she had the big picture. She also had the savvy to help us get the grant. And so it's kind of fitting. I mean, I'm heartbroken to see her go, and we're going to honor her later in the agenda. But she saw this to fruition, and every time we make progress on one of these projects, I'm going to think of her. So thank you, everybody. I think it was really a superb project, and I feel like Holly Sierra and I together were, real sponsors of trying to get public involved and working with SBCAG. So a special thanks to Holly as well.
Thank you, Director Hartman. Are there other questions or comments from directors? Is there any public?
Chair Hart, Holly Sierra.
Yes, Director Sierra.
I just wanted to thank Caltrans, Chumash, Joan Hartman. Iteris was incredible. The bus ride was great. I've never looked at the traffic in the valley as a whole, and it really was interesting to, instead of just looking at my community, we looked at the entire valley, and other residents in the valley looked at Buellton's issues and came up with different ideas too. So I truly appreciate the work that was done. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Sierra. Are there any public comments online or in Santa Barbara? No.
Chair Hart, no public comment.
Thank you. And then are there any public comments in Santa Maria?
No public comment.
Thank you very much. Is there a motion on this item?
Move staff's recommendation.
Motion's been made by Director Hartman.
Murillo seconds.
And seconded by Director Murillo. Any additional discussion? Would the clerk please call the roll?
Director Williams?
Aye.
Hartman?
Aye.
Adam?
Aye.
Lavanino?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye.
Rubalcaba?
Aye.
Mosby?
Aye.
Patino?
Aye.
Parodi?
Aye.
Clark? Murillo?
Aye.
Sierra?
Aye.
And Chair Hart.
Aye.
Motion passes 13-0.
Thank you. Next item is number 8. Madam Clerk, would you please read that item into the record?
Certainly. Item 8, Highway 101, Segment 4C, Utility Agreement with Montecito Water District. Approve and authorize the Executive Director to execute a utility agreement with the Montecito Water District for costs related to relocating its facilities as a result of the Highway 101 Segment 4C project, and authorize reimbursement payments for SBCAG's share of the costs up to $540,000.
Thank you. And Mr. Luna is going to make the presentation?
Yes,
I am,
via Zoom.
Via Zoom, yes. So hopefully you can all hear me.
Yes, thank you, Fred. Please proceed.
Okay, thank you, Chair Hart, and good morning, directors. Fred Luna, talking about this item related to Highway 101, Segment 4C. The item is requesting board approval on a utility agreement with the Montecito Water District. Segment 4C of Highway 101 is one of the 3 segments that SBCAG and Caltrans received SB1 funding for under Cycle 1 in 2018. It extends primarily through the community of Summerlin, but also includes the Sheffield Interchange in Montecito. We're currently on schedule to begin construction in 2020, October of this year. And so funds are scheduled to be allocated by the California Transportation Commission in August. So these deadlines require that SBCAG and Caltrans complete what is known as the ready to list, which is really a transition milestone between the design and construction phase. And one of the key components or prerequisites for that is certification of the right-of-way and utilities. And so in order to be able to certify the right-of-way, we have to indicate that we have agreements for all the right-of-way that's been acquired and the utilities that need to be relocated. So back last year, we obtained 3 easements for right-of-way for the project. There still is one issue related to the utility agreement with the Montecito Water District. That's the subject of today's item. That item is a water line that crosses Highway 101 just west of Romero Creek and the Sheffield Interchange. The staff report on page 2 has an exhibit that shows the location of that facility. The utility agreement defines the roles and responsibilities and cost sharing related to the relocation. Our limit for cost sharing would be 55% of the total anticipated costs, or up to $540,000. Last month, staff brought this item to the board with a utility agreement as well as a construction co-op agreement with Caltrans. And at the time, and as it was presented, we asked the board to delegate authority to the executive director to sign the agreement. And it included a number of comments from staff and county council that were to be adopted in the agreement. And following the board meeting, we received input back from Caltrans that we had to use their standard agreement and they weren't accepting of the comments that were made. So following that, we met with county council, staff did, and we decided to bring this item back to the board. So the utility agreement that's presented to the board today is the standard Caltrans language. We're still seeking a delegation to the executive director to sign the agreement. Caltrans has approved this language, and as you can see in the attachment, the Montecito Water District has signed the agreement. So our constraint for this is that with the board's approval today, we'll be able to have the utility agreement support a right-of-way certification, and we need to submit materials for the construction allocation early next week. And that'll support our request for funding in August to be able to start construction in October. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Luna. Are there questions of staff? Is there any public comment on this item?
None in Santa Barbara.
Any public comment?
None in Santa Maria, and I'll make a motion to move staff recommendation to item 8.
Thank you, Director Lavanino. Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second. Director Rubalcaba.
Thank you, Director Rubalcaba. And Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Director Williams?
Aye.
Hartman?
Aye.
Adam?
Aye.
Lavanino?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye.
Rubalcaba?
Aye.
Mosby?
Aye.
Patino?
Aye.
Perotti?
Aye.
Clark?
Director Clark, we couldn't hear you.
Easy saying aye. Okay. Murillo?
Aye.
Sierra?
Aye.
And Chair Hart.
Aye.
Motion passes 13-0.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, would you please read item 9 into the record?
Certainly. Item 9, recognize Eileen Lowe, Caltrans District 5. Recognize Eileen Lowe of Caltrans District 5 for her years of service with Caltrans.
Executive Director Kern.
Mr. Chairperson, members of the board, I'm requesting that the board adopt a resolution of appreciation in recognition of Eileen Lowe's career to Caltrans for 33 years. So if you don't mind, I'd like to read the resolution into the record.
Please do.
Okay. Santa Barbara County Association of Governments Resolution of Appreciation. Eileen Lowe, Deputy District Director of District 5, California Department of Transportation. Whereas Eileen Lowe has proudly served the traveling public and residents of California's Central Coast as a member of the California Department of Transportation, and whereas Eileen Lowe led the Transportation Planning and Local Assistance Program as the Deputy District Director at District 5 since 2006, developing and sustaining productive partnerships with local and regional agencies for planning and administration of transportation plans and activities. And whereas countless of individuals have reaped the benefits of Eileen Lowe's work by way of environmental protection and sustainable community planning through advocacy for improved infrastructure through Caltrans projects across the region, among other aspects of her work. And whereas Eileen Lowe has been instrumental in collaborating in many critical planning efforts with Santa Barbara County Association of Governments and local partners in Santa Barbara County, including the 101 in Motion, Multimodal Corridor Plan for the South Santa Barbara County, Measure A funded regional projects such as the Highway 154 operational improvements, Milpas Roundabout and Highway 101/Stork Road interchange, the Santa Ynez Valley Traffic Circulation and Safety Study, which we approved today, amongst others, as well as ensuring a proactive role for SBCAG in state and district-wide planning efforts. And whereas Eileen Lowe has been an ally and a partner of SBCAG, and she has worked selflessly for the betterment of the Santa Barbara County region. Now, therefore, it is hereby resolved that, if you adopt this resolution, that the members of the Santa Barbara County Association of Government Board of Directors express their individual and collective appreciation to Eileen Lowe for her 33 years of service at the California Department of Transportation and wish her well in all her future endeavors. Thank you.
Thank you. And this has not been done, to my knowledge, on Zoom in any meetings that I've had, but could we please stand and give Ms. Lowe a round of applause?
Eileen Lowe is on Zoom participating, and she is unmuted.
Thank you, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Did you hear our round of enthusiastic and heartfelt round of applause?
I did. I wasn't ready for that. I'm sorry we can't all be together because it means a lot to me to be honored in this way. I wasn't really expecting that. I just want to say that I feel incredibly fortunate to have served in this role and worked with Santa Barbara all these years. As part of the district, we have 5 counties, and this district has, it's been really a great opportunity to see how much this county has really made progress. And so I'm really honored to have been part of this team since, as you mentioned, since Measure A. The staff at SBCAG has consistently been of just such high caliber. I was there still when Jerry Lorden was the executive director and carried on through Jim Kemp's leadership and now Margie Kearns. And all of the staff have always been great partners. And so I think what part of the success here is just that the staff and the leadership of the board provide an environment of inspiration and challenge. So we've lived through a lot of trials and tribulations together, but that has really made for a lot of strength in striving, moving forward. And the examples that you mentioned are very satisfying. And that's just the work that we do. That's the work that your staff does, the work that my staff does. And I feel very confident that this work is just going to continue because we have developed such a deep partnership that's really meaningful. So the inspiration has been great. Thank you again for honoring me, and I'll be around. So I'll be watching. I'll be watching your success from another perspective, and so carry on. And thank you again.
Well, thank you, Ms. Lowe. And you're exactly right. Our success is a product of the teamwork and the partnership that we have with Caltrans. And you are really the foundation of that because your longevity and your approach to collaboration has set the tone between the relationships between the two agencies. And I know that even though you live in San Luis Obispo County, Santa Barbara County is your favorite of all the District 5 Caltrans counties. And thank you so much for all your great work. We're going to miss seeing you in person. It's great that we can actually see you on Zoom, even though we're far away. And thank you for everything that you've done with Caltrans for Santa Barbara County. Are there other comments from board members? Director Hartman?
I would just like to know what you're going to do.
One thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to be riding my bike more. Another thing I'll be doing is going up to the mountains where my husband and I have a little cabin. And I have lots of hobbies and interests that I'll be diving into. And then eventually I'll settle into something where I can also direct some of my energy. Like I said, I have lots of interests, so settling into one thing at a time, I suppose. But thank you.
Thank you. Well, let's make this official. Would somebody please like to make a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Director Hartman made a motion and seconded by Director Williams. Is there any public comments on this item?
No public comment.
No public comment in Santa Maria?
None in Santa Maria.
Thank you. Then, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Director Williams?
Aye.
Hartman?
Aye.
Adam?
Aye.
Lavanino,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Rubalcaba,
Aye.
Mosby,
Aye.
Patino,
Aye.
Perotti,
Aye.
Clark. Okay. Murillo,
Aye.
Sierra,
Aye.
and Chair Hart.
Aye. That is unanimous, and thank you. That is our unanimous support for you, Eileen, and appreciation for all your tremendous work together, and best wishes, and we look forward to seeing you at meetings in the future as a public citizen and contributor to our dialogue. Next item is our 1-minute reports. So if board members would like to begin, who would like to go first? Director Williams?
I'll just note that the construction on the Cold Springs Bridge began. It's part of a whole lot of public works projects to try to complete the recovery from the debris flow that my colleagues on the Board of Supervisors have supported our efforts to try to make sure that the settlement funds are used to be able to really get true recovery. So I just want to say that with thanks and with pride in our public works staff.
Thank you for that update. Any other director reports?
Chair Hart, Holly
Yes.
Sierra.
Director Sierra.
I just wanted to announce that our Public Works Director, Rose Hess, had applied to the Office of Traffic Safety for a bike education grant. It's an education grant for the Santa Ynez Valley, not just Buellton. We were awarded $40,000 for that grant, so we'll be getting in touch with Supervisor Hartman to figure out how to implement a valley-wide education program.
Thank you
That's
for
it.
that. Thank you and congratulations. Any other board member reports, director reports?
Yes, Director Rubalcaba.
Yes, Director Rubalcaba?
Yeah, just that we will be completing the construction of our ATP Cycle 3 pedestrian improvements project this month.
Great.
That's
Hope
it.
you'll have a wonderful ribbon cutting. And any other director reports in Santa Maria? I know-
I've got one here, Director Mosby.
Yes.
Just thanks to the whoever put it all together. I know working with Union Pacific can be difficult, but kudos to Caltrans and everybody for a long-needed project that's coming to fruition and start of next week at the corner, well, the intersection of A and Highway 246. I guess for about a week it's going to be closed there while they're redoing the train tracks there. Much-needed project. Those of you who've driven through there, the potholes that you've been having to dodge for a while and such. Kudos to those getting it done.
Thank you, Director Mosby.
Director Hart, Director Perotti had a comment.
Thank you. Director Perotti?
Thank you, Chair Hart. I have a few things. The City Council voted on Tuesday to award a construction contract to Lee Wilson Electric Company for the rectangular rapid flashing beacons at Chapel Street and a pedestrian hybrid beacon at Kingston. Those are two cross areas in the city of Goleta that have been problematic, and so these will be, it'll be great to have this added safety feature. The public survey of the design choices for the Goleta Train Depot project is wrapping up soon. The city website has a slide deck featuring the design concepts, site plan, building floor plan layout, and 3 roadway designs. And the public is asked to complete the survey after reviewing the slide deck. The survey includes questions about building, design, preference, important amenities, and roadway improvements. And the survey will remain open until 5 p.m. on Friday, June the 19th. And we're really excited to see what the survey has to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Perotti. And folks can get that survey on the City of Goleta's website, I'm sure.
Yes.
Director Murillo.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. The city of Santa Barbara has been named the 3rd best city in the nation for bicycling, and we're very proud of that. Last year we were number 12, so we've got to keep fighting our way to the top. Thank you.
Congratulations, a bronze medal at this point. Okay. Are there any other director reports? All right, well, the next item on our agenda is Executive Director's Report. Ms. Kern.
Yes. Mr. Chairperson, members of the board, I wanted to let you know about HR2, the Investing in a New Vision for Environment and Surface Transportation in America Act, abbreviated INVEST Act. Vice Chairman of the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee, Carbajal, is advocating for amendments that will benefit local jurisdictions in Santa Barbara. Just this past week, the committee adopted a 99-page manager's amendment that included dozens of changes to the base bill. One of those changes included an increase in the surface transportation program sub-allocation percentage from 55 to 60% by 2025, which Carbajal was instrumental in including in the amendment. So thank you to Congressman Carbajal for representing us well, and this is an exciting opportunity for the reauthorization. It's basically a reauthorization of the transportation bill that's going to be expiring in September. So if we can get this done, that'd be great. I just want to let you know we had a meeting via Zoom with our Central Coast Coalition Commissioner, California Transportation Commissioner, Commissioner Norton last week. We have scheduled another one this Friday with new Commissioner Liu. Basically, this is for the Central Coast Coalition to introduce ourselves, identify what our priorities are, and build a working relationship with the California Transportation Commissioner moving forward. So it's a great opportunity for us to network with them. I do want to give a shout out to the caravans that are happening for the We All Count marketing program for the census work. If you all want to participate in those caravans, the U.S. Census Bureau is hosting several of them this weekend and into the next few weeks. Lauren has some more information, so if you're interested in participating in those caravans to promote We All Count for the census, please contact her. And last but not least, we're still advertising for our regional rail and transit position that the board approved last month. Those applications are due June 24th, so if you know of anybody who might be interested in that position, please encourage them to apply. So thank you very much. That's my report for this month.
Thank you, Executive Director Kern. Are there any questions from directors? All right, well, thank you very much. The next item up is the Caltrans Director's Report. Ms. Lowe, you get almost the final word today.
Yes, all right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just have two items to report on. The first is that our California Secretary of Transportation Agency Secretary David Kim has just issued a statement about the relationship of the transportation system to racial equity. And he's acknowledging that transportation systems fundamentally are about people and improving their quality of life. Unfortunately, historically, there have been many times where improvements to the system have disproportionately benefited some segments of the population and impacted other segments of the population by literally creating barriers that have divided communities and amplified some of the racial inequities, especially in our Black and brown neighborhoods. California State Transportation Agency condemns systemic racism and discrimination in all forms, and firmly embraces racial equity, inclusion, and diversity. He is setting forward a goal to achieve a cleaner, safer, more accessible, and more connected future, and really wants to be part of the solution as we move forward in our work together. And this, the second item I'd like to report on is about litter. There has been a limited amount of litter pickup since March because of the COVID-19 health crisis. But now Caltrans and the California Highway Patrol are resuming a statewide effort to again remove litter from our highways. And it's no secret or surprise that litter is not good for any of us. It increases the risk of fire, it pollutes our waterways, it threatens wildlife, and it ultimately it costs taxpayers millions of dollars in the removal process. So we're asking all Californians to be part of the solution by disposing of your trash responsibly and making sure that cargo loads are secure before getting on the road. Those are the big messages, and And then you have the report in your binder there of the ongoing projects and a lot of good work that's carrying on. So that's my report. And if there are any questions on any items, I can.
Thank you, Ms. Lowe. Are there questions for Caltrans? Well, that's great. That's a drop the mic report. Thank you, Ms. Lowe. Appreciate that. The next item is a report from the Lausanne Committee. I attended the board meeting on June 15th, and the information from the Lausanne staff was about ridership. Unfortunately, because of the COVID pandemic, ridership has really dropped precipitously at the peak of its bottoming. The ridership was down about 90 to 95%. Thankfully, slowly, ridership is beginning to grow back from a very low base, unfortunately. There's about 34% increase in the last week alone, but even at that rate of increase, we're still operating in the mid 80% range of capacity. The state of California provides funding for all three regional rail services in the state of California, the Capital Corridor, the Pacific Surfliner, and the San Joaquin. And because of state budget issues, they have asked all of the regional rail services to reduce service to no more than 60% going forward for the next 4 to 6 months. So ridership will be capped and service will be limited for that period of time. And hopefully, gradually, service will be restored and we'll be able to reconnect California by rail and restore our peak hour rail service in time as well. So that is the report from Lausanne. We do not have a communications report, and that brings us to our adjournment. We will adjourn this board meeting until our next scheduled meeting on Thursday, July 16th at 10 a.m. Thank you all for being here today.